The shepherd's call. The city was a labyrinth of shadows, its cobblestone streets slick with the damp of forgotten rains, winding like veins through a body long dead. Fog curled around flickering street lamps, swallowing their light in a haze that felt alive, whispering despair into my bones. I'm Thomas, 38, a man who'd lost everything: job, daughter, faith, and tonight I was wandering, trying to outrun the weight of my failures. The air was heavy, seeping into my coat, chilling me deeper than the November cold should have. Above, hidden by the mist, I sensed a vast cosmos, stars burning with divine fire, and somewhere in that infinite expanse, the Good Shepherd watched. I pictured him not as the gentle figure from my mother's bedtime stories, but as a cosmic force, his robe woven of starlight, blues deeper than the heavens, golds brighter than the sun, whites purer than any light. His eyes held the weight of eternity, seeing every soul, every stray, his staff anchoring the universe itself. Could he still see me, a man who'd forgotten how to hear his call? My boots scuffed the cobblestones, each step echoing the life I'd let slip away. 2 years ago, Sarah walked out, taking our daughter Lily with her. I couldn't blame her. I've been a ghost in our marriage, chasing promotions that never came, drowning in doubts, ignoring the faith that once grounded me. As a boy, I'd sit with my mother in our small church, her hands worn from factory work, her voice soft as she spoke of a shepherd who never lost his sheep, who sought them in the darkest valleys. That faith was a flicker now, an ember buried under years of regret. I'd failed Sarah, failed Lily, failed myself. The city seemed to know it, its buildings leaning like silent judges, their windows dark, unyielding. I turned down a narrow alley, the stone walls closing in, slick with moss and secrets. The fog thickened, and a chill ran through me, sharper than the air. That's when I saw her, a woman or something like one, emerging from the shadows as if the fog had birthed her. Her robes were tattered, fluttering in a wind I couldn't feel, their edges frayed like the wings of a dying moth. Her face was gaunt, her skin pale as bone, but her eyes burned with an unnatural fire, twin embers that pierced the dark and locked onto me. She staggered forward, her lips moving in a guttural chant, an ancient tongue that clawed at my soul. Domine meus anima tua. The words were jagged, like shards of glass, not just heard, but felt, pressing against my chest, stirring a primal fear. Her voice was a chorus of whispers, as if a thousand lost souls were trapped in her throat, each syllable dripping with malice. My heart pounded, a frantic rhythm drowning out the city's hum. Her hands reached for me, gnarled and trembling, her nails black as obsidian, glinting in the dim light. I stumbled back, my boots slipping on the wet stones, my mind screaming to run, but my legs were lead. Her eyes were voids, pulling me toward an abyss I couldn't name, like a nightmare clawing into reality. The air grew colder, the fog tightening around me, and I wanted to scream, to pray, but the words wouldn't come. I'd fallen too far, my faith too weak to shield me from whatever she was. Then out of the fog a man appeared. He was unremarkable, a gray coat, a weathered face, but his eyes carried a quiet authority, like a father calming a frightened child. He stepped between me and the woman, his presence a wall against her malice. Without a word, he pressed a folded note into my trembling hand. His fingers were warm, steady, and the paper felt alive, its edges worn but pulsing with a heat that burned through my fear. Keep this close, he said, his voice low, like a shepherd soothing a lamb lost in the dark. I clutched the note, my fingers tightening around it, as if it were my last tether to hope. He met my gaze, his eyes searching mine, then vanished into the fog as quickly as he'd appeared. The woman's chant grew frantic, her body twisting as if pulled by invisible strings. Anima tua. Me, she hissed, her voice a blade slicing through the night. I ran, boots pounding the cobblestones, the note burning in my hand. The city warped around me, streets bending into impossible angles, shadows stretching like claws. The fog was a suffocating shroud, clinging to my skin, and her voice pursued me, relentless, echoing off the walls. Your soul is ours, she screamed, the words no longer ancient but clear, venomous, a declaration that stopped my heart. You are coming with us to hell forever. Your soul is ours. The shift was sudden, terrifying, like a mask torn away to reveal a demonic hunger beneath. This wasn't a woman, she was a vessel, possessed by something ancient, something that wanted my soul for its own. My chest tightened, my breath ragged. Hell forever? The words clawed at me, dragging up every fear I'd buried. I saw Sarah's face, her soft smile fading as she walked out the door, her suitcase in hand, Lily clinging to her side. I saw Lily's eyes, wide and confused, asking why Daddy wasn't coming with them. Was this my punishment for failing them, for failing myself? The city seemed to close in, its buildings leaning like judges passing sentence, their windows dark, unyielding. But a memory stirred, my mother's voice, speaking of a shepherd who sought the lost, who carried them home. Could he still find me even now? The chase was a nightmare, the kind that twists reality until you question what's real. The streets spiraled, their cobblestones shifting underfoot, as if the city itself was alive and conspiring against me. The woman's form flickered in the fog, now behind me, now ahead, her eyes glowing brighter, her robes fraying into tendrils that reached for me. Her voice was a storm, her words a relentless chant. Your soul is ours. Each syllable was a lash, stripping away my defenses, exposing the raw fear beneath. I clutched the note tighter, its warmth the only thing keeping me grounded. I didn't know where I was running, only that I had to escape her, escape the darkness that felt like it was already inside me. I remembered my childhood, those Sundays in the church with my mother. She'd hold my hand, her calloused fingers rough but warm, and tell me stories of the shepherd who never gave up on his sheep. I'd believed her then, believed in a love that could find you no matter how far you strayed. But life had worn that belief thin, college, where I'd laughed at faith as a crutch, my early years with Sarah where I'd put ambition over love, Lily's birth, a fleeting joy I'd squandered by working late, missing bedtimes, forgetting promises. When Sarah left, she'd said I wasn't the man she'd married, and she was right. I'd become a stranger even to myself. The woman's screams grew louder, her form more grotesque, her face twisted, her mouth stretching impossibly wide, revealing teeth like needles. Her eyes pulsed, not just fire now, but portals to something deeper, darker, a place where hope didn't exist. The fog thickened, the air heavy with the stench of decay, and I felt her presence inside my mind, whispering doubts, accusing me of every sin. I saw flashes of my failures, Sarah's tears, Lily's unanswered questions, my mother's disappointed eyes before she passed. The note in my hand was a lifeline, its warmth pulsing against the cold, urging me to keep running. I don't know how I found the chapel. One moment I was stumbling through the twisted streets, the woman's screams chasing me like hounds. The next, I pushed through the half-rotted doors of a small sanctuary. The air inside was still sacred, smelling of old wood and melted wax. The chapel was modest, its pews warped and dusty, its stained glass windows fractured but glowing under the moon's faint light. Crimson, sapphire, and gold danced across the floor, painting scenes of saints and angels, their faces serene yet sorrowful, as if they knew my pain. At the front, a weathered crucifix hung above a simple altar, the carved figure of Christ gazing down with eyes that seemed to see me, truly see me, for the first time in years. I collapsed to my knees, my hands shaking as I clutched the note. The woman's voice was outside now, rattling the doors, her words a snarl. Your soul is ours. The chapel trembled, the air growing heavy, as if the walls were bracing against her assault. I unfolded the note, my fingers trembling so badly I nearly tore it. In bold script it read, Call on me and I will save you. The words hit like a wave, stirring the ember of faith I'd buried long ago. I looked up at the crucifix, at Christ's face, his eyes filled with a love that pierced through my shame, my doubt, my fear. Save me, I whispered, my voice breaking. I'm yours. The words were raw, a plea torn from the depths of my soul, a surrender to the shepherd I'd ignored for so long. I clung to the note, its truth anchoring me as the chapel doors shook harder, the woman's form now a silhouette of writhing darkness, visible through the cracks. Her eyes blazed, her voice a storm of rage and desperation. Your soul is ours. The air grew colder, shadows twisting into shapes that clawed at the edges of my vision, hands, faces, eyes, all hungry, all hateful, like nightmares given form. Her face pressed against the glass, her features melting into something inhuman, her mouth a gaping maw, her eyes burning with a promise of eternal torment. Then a light, soft at first, like the glow of dawn, then blinding, erupted from the crucifix. It wasn't just light, it was a presence vast and cosmic, filling the chapel with a warmth that burned away the cold. I saw him, the Good Shepherd, standing before me, his form both man and divine. His robe shimmered with starlight, blues deeper than the heavens, golds brighter than the sun, whites purer than any light I'd ever seen. His face was kind but fierce, his eyes holding the weight of eternity, seeing every corner of my soul, every failure, every hope, every tear I'd never shed. In his hand was a staff, a pillar of strength that seemed to anchor the universe itself, and around him the air hummed with the song of creation, a melody of love unbroken, of grace unearned. The darkness recoiled, the woman's form dissolving into ash as her screams faded into a pitiful wail. My sheep hear my voice, the shepherd said, his words a thunder of love, a promise that reached into the deepest parts of me, pulling me back from the edge of despair. The shadows fled, the chapel growing still, the air warm and alive with his presence. I wept, the note still clutched in my hand, its words now carved into my heart. The fog outside lifted, revealing a dawn breaking over the city, its light painting the streets in hues of gold and rose. I left the chapel, my legs unsteady, but my heart lighter. The city was different now, its streets no longer menacing but quiet, almost welcoming. I walked, the note tucked in my pocket, its warmth a reminder of the shepherd's promise. I thought of Sarah and Lily, of the man I'd failed to be, and vowed to make it right. I'd find them, apologize, rebuild what I'd broken. The faith I'd lost was stirring again, a flame kindled by the encounter in the chapel. I wasn't whole yet, but I was no longer lost. Weeks passed. I took odd jobs, scraping by, writing letters to Sarah, though I hadn't yet found the courage to send them. I attended a small church, its hymns stirring memories of my mother, her voice blending with the congregation's. Each step felt like a reclamation, a return to the man I was meant to be. But the city held secrets. I'd catch glimpses of shadows that moved too quickly, hear whispers in alleys that sounded like that ancient chant. I told myself it was my mind, still raw from that night, but deep down I knew better. The darkness wasn't gone, it was waiting. One evening, drawn by a need for comfort, I found myself at McSorley's Ale House, a historic tavern older than the city itself. Its wooden doors were weathered, its walls lined with faded photographs and dusty relics, a sawdust-covered floor, tables scarred by decades of stories. The air was thick with the scent of ale and old wood, the chatter of patrons a warm hum against the chill outside. I settled at a corner table, nursing a mug, the note still in my pocket, a talisman against the darkness I'd faced. The place felt safe, grounded, a refuge from the city's strangeness. But then the air shifted. The chatter dimmed, the warmth fading as a cold draught swept through the room. I looked up and my blood froze. There she was, the woman, standing in the doorway of McSorley's, her eyes burning with that same unholy fire. She shouldn't be here, couldn't be here, not after the chapel, not after the shepherd's light. Yet there she stood, her robes tattered, her face twisted into a grin that was both human and not. The patrons didn't notice, their laughter continuing as if she were invisible, but her gaze was locked on me, her lips moving in that ancient chant, Domin Muse Anima Tua. I gripped the note, its warmth flaring against my palm. The room tilted, the walls bending like the streets that night, the sawdust on the floor swirling into patterns that pulsed with malice. Her voice grew louder, the chant shifting. Your soul is ours. The words were a knife, cutting through the tavern's warmth, and the patrons' faces blurred, their laughter morphing into a low, mocking hum. She stepped forward, her form flickering, now a woman, now a shadow with claws and eyes that burned like hellfire. The horror was visceral, a nightmare clawing into reality, her presence a violation of the sanctuary I'd found. The photographs on the walls curled, their faces twisting into grotesque masks, the air thick with the stench of sulfur. I stumbled to my feet, the mug crashing to the floor. You can't have me, I shouted, my voice cracking but defiant. I held the note aloft, its words a shield. Call on me, and I will save you. The woman hissed, her form twisting, her eyes flaring brighter. The tavern's walls seemed to bleed, the relics rattling, the sawdust forming symbols that burned my eyes. I fell to my knees, praying as I had in the chapel, my voice raw. Save me, I'm yours. The light came again, not from the note, but from within me, a spark growing into a blaze. The Good Shepherd's presence filled the tavern, his cosmic form towering, his robe a tapestry of stars. his staff a beacon against the dark. "My sheep hear my voice," he said, his words a command that shook reality itself. The woman screamed, her form unraveling into tendrils of smoke, her eyes dimming as she was sucked into an unseen void. The tavern snapped back to normal, the patrons blinking as if waking from a dream, their laughter resuming, unaware of the battle that had raged. I sat trembling, the note still in my hand. The bartender, a grizzled man with kind eyes, slid another mug my way. "Rough night?" he asked, oblivious to the horror. I nodded, unable to speak, my heart pounding with the weight of what I'd seen. The woman was gone, but her final scream lingered, a warning that the darkness was never truly vanquished, only held at bay. I left McSorley's under a starlit sky, the note in my pocket, my resolve hardened. I mailed the letter to Sarah that night, vowing to be the father Lily deserved, the husband I'd failed to be. I was the shepherd's, claimed across eternity, but as I walked, a chill whispered through the shadows, and her voice echoed faintly, "Your soul." I froze, turning, but the street was empty. Or was it? The fog was creeping back, and in its depths I swore I saw a flicker of ember-like eyes.